Hey everybody, hope all is well. Just back here with another video where CTV is essentially talking about Pierre Poilievre's recent statement about women's safe spaces, biological women. You know what I mean. So we'll just get to this video. We'll react to it, and then I'll talk about it a little bit after, like usual.
The federal conservative leader's latest position on trans rights is once again generating debate in this country. Comments he made today are in keeping with how his base feels, but outside of it, critics accuse him of exploiting culture wars for political gain. CTV's Judy Trin explains.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is clear. Transgender women should be banned from female spaces.
Obviously, female sports, female change rooms, female bathrooms should be for females, not for biological males.
It's a stance widely supported by his party. At last year's Conservative convention, 87% of delegates voted for a policy that gives women the safety, dignity, and privacy of single-sex spaces. The NDP points out trans women aren't a major threat to female safety.
What women have said that they're concerned about is harassment and violence perpetrated by men.
People like Pierre Poilievre would rather pick a fight with trans kids. That's not leadership. And that's not a game I'm going to play with them.
The Prime Minister accuses Poilievre of exploiting US-style culture wars, while trans advocates say similar policies have cost lives south of the border.
When you have large groups of people demonizing trans people, there are going to be individuals who act on that.
Just this week in Oklahoma, where there's a transgender bathroom ban, a non-binary 16-year-old teenager died after being beaten in a high school girls' washroom. Last spring in Ottawa, protests erupted outside a public school board meeting after some parents argued their daughters didn't feel safe using inclusive bathrooms. Hannah Hodson is transgender and used to work for the Conservatives. She says talking about the divisive issue will boost fundraising.
Angry people donating money. But it's bad for society. It's bad for vulnerable people. It's bad for nuanced conversation about, what do we want our society to be?
This is the second time in a month that the Conservative leader has weighed in on issues of gender identity. 2 weeks ago, Poilievre said he opposed puberty blockers for gender-diverse people under the age of 18. Omar.
All right, Judy, thanks.
So that's interesting. And the first thing I want to say.
Two of your former staffers have been appointed to
Sorry about that. So the first thing I want to talk about is for the person who was that 16-year-old who was beaten to death. I mean, that's a disgrace. I hope the people who did that are rotting in jail. So just want to start off with that. Second of all, what Pierre Poilievre is talking about is protecting children and protecting women's spaces like sports, like their bathrooms. This didn't used to be a very hard thing to comprehend, but now of course it is. But this is what happens when this liberal propaganda ideology gets into your head. People start thinking, oh, I don't really believe in biology anymore. Oh, if you transition over to this gender, that's what you are. And that's fine if you think that. But when it comes to women's rights, like having the right to go into their own bathrooms without a biological male, how can you, I see a lot of feminists too who support this. It's like, how are you a feminist and you support men intruding on women's spaces? Especially when the bathroom and the sports issue. I mean, that's the really big issue that conservatives and common sense people, libertarians, populists, independents, we all kind of agree with this ideology that if you are an adult and you want to do whatever you want to do, go ahead. But when you're talking about giving these puberty blockers to kids as young as 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, 15 years old, I mean, that's crazy. That can have irreversible effects and damages that could ruin the rest of their lives. And then when it comes to sports, you just see men, biological men, going into these sports. It's happened in combat sports, like in MMA organizations. It's, you see it in swimming. It just happened here recently in Canada. There was a biological male who joined a female rugby team, and they're dominating. Weightlifting, that's another one. They're dominating. So they're coming over to these female sports and taking trophies and potentially scholarships away from women. Right? If you're competing, let's say you're a marathon runner or you're a sprinter and you're about to get like a a scholarship to go to college to be an athlete for them, and say they're giving out 5 scholarships. So the top 5 women would get those scholarships. Well, now you have a biological man. That means he's going to be up there with 4 other women. That means one of those 5 women is going to get, she's going to lose her chance to get a scholarship. That's not fair to women. That's not fair to that specific woman. Why is that okay? It's not. Listen, if you want to start like your own league, sure, go ahead. Biological men who transition into women, you want to do your own rugby thing, your weightlifting competitions, go ahead. This is not an issue of hating trans people or taking away trans rights. It's the fact that not all, but some of some of the members in this community are overstepping and are trying to reach out to children and take things away from women. This this is not to speak ill about trans people. This is about, hey, listen, we got to protect our kids and protect the women. That's what we're supposed to do. The liberals, though, they don't seem to want to protect either one of them.